Sweet.
Hey everyone, Grant Johnson here, one of the co-founders at Rocketspark. I'm here today with Joe Bradford, who's one of the co-owners of Fiasco. And this series that we're just starting is around telling some stories of some pretty innovative things that have been going on when the world has changed around us. And we want to tell these stories to inspire you and encourage you in terms of your journey. So yeah, I'd love, actually, Joe, firstly, welcome. Thanks for being involved, and
Thanks, Grant.
congratulations
Thanks for having me.
on what you've been doing so far. But yeah, it'd be great
Cheers.
to kind of just tell us a bit about the story of Fiasco and then kind of what happened with when the world changed with COVID-19.
Yep. So Fiasco, we build road cases. We basically target the touring industry, and we are pretty innovative in how we go about our casing and logistics solution for that industry. Matt and I have been growing the business here in New Zealand for about 7 years, and we expanded to the US 4 or 5 years ago, and really have driven harder in the last couple of years. Right up till mid-March, when it was just kind of really hitting its straps and starting to pay off. And then in the course of a week, it kind of hit the rails pretty hard. So yeah.
And so events, because basically like events like concerts, productions, big things, like they're using your cases to pack in, pack out.
Yep.
And business pretty much stopped with because that business had to stop.
So our cases are used to take items to events. We've got cases that have gone to the Grammys. The NBA owns some of our cases. And in New Zealand, there's a whole bunch of, if you've been to an event in New Zealand in the last 5 years, it's very likely a Fiasco case would be there.
Yes.
So that's what we have pushed, and that's why we're there. But yeah, it all kind of dried up. 90% of it dried up within 7 days. So,
yep. Yeah, and what was your reaction like when that happened? Like, how did that feel? Like that's pretty major when you invested into a business and then it's just the taps just turned off and orders are cancelled and yeah.
It was pretty gutting. And it was one of those things where it just felt a bit surreal and out of body, where you're just kind of like, what the heck's happening here? But I think part of our story is that in the events world, you adapt pretty fast. Our customers adapt pretty fast. We adapt pretty fast. Matt and I have done a fair number of events, and so we were kind of used to things hitting us sideways and having to react. And so that really helped us to gather our thoughts and refocus pretty fast.
Cool. And then kind of in the course of a pretty short period, like you've actually launched like two brand new businesses.
Yep.
Across 2 countries. That tell us about the businesses that you've launched and I guess how they came about. What was the kind of, I think the words that you used to describe me is like your toast in terms of the core business, and then
yep.
Tell us that story.
Yeah, so we were toast in many respects. Like, I don't think it'll be toast forever, but we were toast that week, and we continue to be toast now. So we kind of put about 20 ideas on the board over a couple of days, and then obviously someone had to take the lead of saying, right, we've got to nail down on some of these. So one day I was pretty firm to the team that we were going to get into the desks business. And Matt also had the opportunity through his sister at Sanders Pharmacy in Te Awamutu to develop some screens. So those were 2 of about 20 ideas on our board, and we kind of put a circle around those and said, cool, by the end of the day, we need a prototype of some screens and a couple of different desk ideas. It took that by the end of the day, we had 2 desk ideas kind of prototyped on the floor, and they were good starts. We got up to about 8 before we got our final model, but and then by the end of a couple of days later, we had our screens. So within 7 days, we went from doing cases and fully focused to prototyping a bunch of things and launching a website with you guys at Rocketspark, which was super helpful. And you'll Jeremy, your brother, did a massive effort over the weekend for us, which was gold. And yeah, so about 7 days later, we launched working from home desks.co.nz, and we launched screenserve.co.nz. And in the US, we've launched the desks under workingfromhomedesks.com.
Work from home
all of
desks?
those work from home desks, sorry.
Yeah, better get the domain right, hey? Got to give you a good plug.
Better get it right. So we bought all those day one. Basically, we went, right, let's name it something and let's do it. We actually bought about 6 or 7 because we couldn't decide, but we were just like, we need to have something we can put our hat on and move forward.
And so you actually develop the prototypes. You actually, so internally you develop the designs. You have your own CNC machine that can cut out plywood basically, yep. and assembled them, tested them, and rolled it out.
Yeah. So over a couple of hours, we came up with a few different concepts. Then we set 2 different team members onto those different concepts, and they kind of parallel designed. And the end result is actually a mixture of the 2. But it gave us kind of it answered multiple questions all within a few days.
And now we're what? Is it probably 3 weeks, 4 weeks in?
It might be 4 weeks now.
4 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was like just before kind of lockdown started in New Zealand. And how's it going? Like how are both work from home desks and ScreenServe?
Yep. So ScreenServe was a big kick to start with, which was great. With a whole bunch of essential services and everything. And as the government opened up to more businesses being able to be opened, the desks actually got kind of approval as well by MB, which was really nice. So we started to push both pretty hard. And between the 2 of them, we've covered our costs for the last month, and we're really growing back to where we were. I'd still love to be in the road case game and the world to be normal, but I'm really glad that our team's still together and that we are still able to survive and keep our families going, which is cool.
So it's pretty amazing. And that's, I guess, with knowing a bit of the background to the story, I was keen to interview and tell that story. But just if we think about it, where businesses ended within a week, you had a business stood up, and then within a 4-week period, you're almost back to where you were in terms of revenue, and with the potential to actually be, you're only just getting going, because like e-commerce takes time to get going, and that's pretty nuts.
Yeah, you keep telling me that. I'm pretty excited about that, but I'm not. I'm being we're being real realistic as a team about that. It could be a flash in the pan, or it could be a long-term thing. We kind of hope it will be a long-term thing. And so we're building our framework, and we're making decisions about 12 to 36 month time period. But we're really trying to hit, home runs every day, and they're pretty long days, but they're pretty hard days. Everyone's working at max, but that's great because the world's gone to crisis, and so to be really focused is helpful.
And there's a chance, I guess, that with the kind of the way lockdowns are happening around the world, that countries could dip in and dip out at different levels. So suddenly people are back working from home, and even the whole kind of work from home culture is so much more accepted. Like, say, in a business like Rocketspark, it's been the norm. We started as a work from home business, but for a lot of businesses, this is new. But with health and safety requirements, you've got to make sure, like, we're responsible for our team, wherever they're working. And one of them's working in a garage at the moment. He's in his family home, and that's kind of where his office is. But to be able to have your team sort of set up and they're safe and well, and proper height adjusted ergonomic desk is this seems to be like a long-term potential there.
Yeah, and so I think that's something that businesses are really going to have to wrestle with over the next 6 months. Is like, when we have people at home, can they work from the dining room table? And it's interestingly, most of our sales haven't come from businesses. They've come from individuals who basically say to us, look, I just can't handle it anymore, so I've bought it, and hopefully the boss will reimburse me.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
And in terms of telling your story to get to get awareness. So it's one thing to build a site,
Yep.
and Rocketspark I think does a pretty good job of making that quite simple, and good if you can rope in
Yep.
our co-founder and head of design
Oh,
to
you guys,
to do it. But
you guys have gone above and beyond for us, but it was extremely simple as well, and a lot has changed in the last month as we've gone along because we've adapted it.
And how are you spreading the word? Like, how are you getting? I've obviously seen you in the paper, in one of the articles that they wrote about Rocketspark, but told your story, and then there was a photo of you and Matt there together. So, but apart from that, like, how have you spread the word around work from home desks and ScreenServe?
We've used Facebook a lot to date. We're rolling out with Google shopping and Google keywords, which I think is going to be critical to the long-term side of ours. But we've really targeted in on using Facebook to push ourselves out into the market. And that hasn't come without cost, but it's really paying dividends at the moment.
And looking at your site, like, I think you tell the story really well in terms of this is the practical solution. Thanks. Where, even when your work from home days are over and you can slide it back under a couch and that sort of thing. But in terms of the marketing of it and preparing of the videos, like, I understand that's been done in-house. Like, you've actually got talented people in the team to do that.
Yeah, we've got about 12 of us, and I wouldn't trade any of them for anyone, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
there's, Brad Dring can take a big bow for the photos and the video side of it and telling that story. He's an artist by nature, so it comes naturally to him. But he's loved it, and it's been really cool to see him kind of do that. You just got to empower someone and then step back, and it'll go good.
Yeah, well, I think just look, we get to see literally thousands of websites going through the doors at Rocketspark. So it's you can sort of see where, and I think it's quite a strength is to be able to tell your story so well and succinctly in really short fun videos, and then seeing the Facebook reviews as well, which I see on your site where someone says, look, my desk turned up and I assembled it in 10 minutes, so it's not smoke and mirrors. Yep. It's the real deal, which is, well done. Yep. It's cool.
Thank you.
And this was your first experience of actually e-commerce, like selling direct, because like with Fiasco, you didn't actually have e-commerce on your website at all, because they're kind of more bespoke products, are they?
Yeah, and a very business-driven product. There's a very small market of people who want that product and they're repeat customers. So we're used to dealing with someone who is, love you guys, but probably OCD to our regular customers, and they're hard on us, and we sell to them every month or every week. So it isn't really an e-commerce product; it's more a relationship-driven product.
Yes.
So yeah, it was totally new to us, but with really good tools, you can really scale fast, which was great.
And what tips would you give to a first timer, like where they've just, we're seeing some pretty innovative things and people are stepping into e-commerce for the first time. But if you were to kind of step back, and probably apart from having good mates that kind of, run a web platform, but what kind of key learnings would you give to people to say, hey, start here, do this, set up your payment system, or, what are kind of key areas where you'd recommend to focus?
I definitely think that building your website is critical. And so someone like Rocketspark, whether we knew you guys or not, we could have used your site to build that really fast. Tell your story. Like on the ScreenServe one, we started with a one-pager. We told our story on that, and we put our contact details, and that's all we did. And we marketed it. We got the calls, and we made it happen. Now, over the last 4 weeks, we've built it into an online shop. But the first thing was actually building a name. For desks, we started with a page, and we didn't actually have e-commerce for the first week either. We registered interest, got people to sign up, and people did that. And then we built the shop in the background, and then we pushed it out in a big email to them and said, hey, we're launching. And then we started pushing. So we got some instant traction because we'd already done the marketing and we'd started to tell the story, even when the product wasn't quite available. And then in the last month, we've done a combination of, hey, this is available and it's here now, you can get it. and pre-order, and that's helped us to scale. So if we only had one sample sheet of like blonde birch, we made a desk, we took the photos, we started to tell the story, we started to make some pre-orders, and this week the team has started to cut those and ship them out. But we've already sold multiple units without having to wait until now. And now I can say to people, hey, you can get that blonde desk next week.
Yes.
And they can really scale. So being creative in that is something that I would, you don't have to have everything perfect. There's a massive read list. Like we've got a whole list of things we want to fix, but you want to tell your story first and foremost, and tell what your product can do, and then add in. And so we added SEO and Google in week 3. So we're only just getting into that, but we knew from the start we wanted to do it. It was just a matter of getting the other things sorted out.
Yeah, well done. And my understanding with kind of trading standards in most kind of modern economies is, as long as you're clear about when you are delivering, if it's a pre-order, there's nothing wrong with taking pre-orders, even if you don't have the stock, as long as it's clear that, there's a time frame for when it's going to be delivered. So it's pretty clever in terms of, you're getting cash in up front to then fund the stock that you need, and you're buying with certainty in what's otherwise quite an uncertain market. So yeah, well done.
And also, like, just on that cash thing, through Rocketspark, you can do bank deposit, which is pretty instant to set up. Then you can scale and get something like Stripe or one of those other credit card ones. And then things like Afterpay and Lay-by have taken a little bit longer to get, but they've really added sales volume. So as we've gone week by week, we've expanded what we can offer, and that's helped us boost our sales.
So in terms of people that know about like Lay-by and Afterpay, they're kind of like a buy now, pay later, buy now, pay in 4 installments or 6 installments. And for you as the merchant, you get the funds deposited the next day, so the kind of credit risk is gone. So tell us a bit about your experience with what impact that those systems have had for you in terms of getting up and running.
Yeah, so Lay-by set up pretty quick. And so that kicked in relatively well. And I started pushing the guys, or pushing Afterpay to get themselves sorted out pretty fast, because I could see that it was contributing a reasonable number of sales in the background. And since Afterpay has only just come online this week, we've seen a reasonable number of that sales as well. And the other advantage is we haven't got full use of this yet, but we've started to, tag them, and we're trying to get them to push our product because they've got an audience. And so, as you partner with different people, you get some of their audience, they get some of your audience, and it's a partnership thing is really critical in any kind of business, but especially in e-commerce, it seems.
And probably the last question is, you've been getting some good publicity in terms of, I think that's probably a benefit. I think we connected you with like the Waikato Business News, and then out of that stuff came along.
We got stuff,
and you've been popping up. Like, sort of any tips there in terms of getting in the news?
Be willing. Have good friends. Like, I'm even doing interviews like this is something that I'm not naturally drawn to at all. Brad on our team is way more into it, and so he's our public face. But being willing, like, those definitely have merit, and they give you credibility. And then if you're doing the work in the background, you do get the results.
Hey Joe, I'm conscious you probably got to go and pack some orders or something, but thanks heaps for jumping on the call and sharing a bit of your story. And I look forward to seeing kind of what comes next in terms of the next industry. I guess even there's a lot of interest in the takeaway sector as well in terms of contactless delivery, just like what you've got contactless for pharmacy. So keen to see what's next. So
and that's a space we're trying to push into in the next week. So you develop your program thing as you go, just like you guys have at Rocketspark. And really want to say huge thank you to the Rocketspark team for your help in getting us there. The platform lets you do a lot of things really easily. So well done to you guys.
Good stuff. Thanks, Joe. Well, I was conscious of not doing too much of a plug for Rocketspark, but just keen to tell your story. But yeah, appreciate that, and
Oh, yeah,
keep it up.
totally. That comes from me, and I think you guys know how appreciative we are.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a good news story. So yeah, well, all the best.